Most of us feel like we have potential, but we don't know how to tap into it. Inside, we feel like we should be doing something different, but we don't know what that is. Well, now it's time to awaken your energy and enlightenment. Find out who you really are and truly discover why you are more powerful than you think. By transforming the perspective of yourself, you will discover the power to recognize the incredible possibilities within you and in your life. Now, bringing you thought leaders from around the country and around the world, here's chiropractor and author, Dr. Fred DiDomenico.
Hey, it's Dr. Fred DiDomenico, and this is You Are More Powerful podcast based on my book, You're More Powerful Than You Think, which introduces the six-step system, Healed, which has helped you to connect with that innate divinity inside you, clear of your past, discover, live, and fulfill your soul, S-O-U-L, purpose, the reason why you're here in this life. And I am thrilled and truly honored to be here with a great leader, fellow chiropractor, fellow Italian, and Dr. John Demartini. So welcome and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to enlighten us.
Thank you for giving me this time. Thank you.
Of course. So, like we were just saying before we started this recording, your name can be a household word and a household name, yet what you're doing around the world and the systems and mindset and how you've connected with that power inside you and created systems that have truly transformed the lives of hundreds of thousands, if not millions around the world, and how you're living that soul purpose now is really amazing, because you've also been through, like all of us, you've been through challenges to get there, and it's a lifetime evolution.
Yes, it is. I think, I always say that anything you can't say thank you for in life is baggage, and anything you can say thank you for becomes fuel. So if we don't look at our life in a way that it's on the way and we see it in the way, we get on our way. So
there you go.
We have control over three things in our life: our perceptions, decisions, and actions. And we have to master the art of asking quality questions so we have a quality life. How specifically is whatever I'm experiencing, how's it helping me fulfill my most inspiring mission? If we ask that and don't give up on the answer to that, we build amazing momentum incrementally from anything that happens to us. And so I guess through trials and error, you learn that as you go. And then after a while, you start to use that consciously and with foresight, and you build quite a bit of momentum. I always say, if you stay with something long enough, everybody else dies out and you end up getting somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. Isn't that the truth? Persistence counts, doesn't it? Sometimes over time, right?
Yeah, I'm a relentless, persistent guy, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Well, also, you've been through some challenges too. So what I'd really like to do, if that's okay with you, would be if you kind of go through where you started, some of the challenges you went through, how you evolved into what you're doing now. And that would, I think, would really give people a mindset of what you just said, which is brilliant.
Well, I was born in 1954, Thanksgiving Day.
Nice.
And so I'll be 65 here in just a few weeks, matter of weeks now. And I was born with my arm and leg turned in. I guess I had a positioning wasn't great. And my arm and leg was turned inward. And so when I was very young, I had to start when I started to walk, I had to wear braces on my arm and leg. And I also had problems with speech. And I had to go to speech pathologist. I think I was about 1.5 when I started there, because I couldn't use my muscles properly. And I had to do these exercises with strings and buttons in my mouth. I remember as a kid. I still remember the building where I went. And so I think the perfection of that was that, because I really don't believe there's a mistake in that. I think it was destined for me to help me overcome that, to be able to learn how to communicate. Right. And then also to not be constrained so I could be free to travel. So I think those are perfect things for me, but at the time I didn't see it. Right. And what was interesting is then I remember when I was 5, starting a little kindergarten class, the teacher used to say, it's time for coloring. And I wanted to color with the girls. Being Italian, I was more interested in the girls than the guys. And I wanted to color with the girls. And the teacher didn't want me coloring with the girls and said, "You're a boy." And she put these big crayons in my hand, and you got to draw army and war and cars and male stuff. And I guess I didn't have enough testosterone then, and I didn't do well with that. And I'd sneak over to the girls again. So finally she put me in the middle class and said, "If you're not going to play with the boys, I'm not going to let you play with the girls. You're going to play with yourself in the middle."
Nice.
And I really think that was perfect too, because that was the middle path, if you will. And it was meant to bring a pair of opposites. It's like an adjustment. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Bring things into balance. So then I got to first grade. I had a first grade teacher, Miss McLaughlin, and she tried to teach me learning and reading, and I just couldn't do it. I had dyslexia, and I just couldn't do it. And I had speech problems. I couldn't speak properly. And I wrote backwards because my hand was turned in. And even after I'd been in braces, I still wrote backwards. And I was left-handed, which was sinister. And so my teacher finally gave up on me trying to teach me. And she asked my parents to come to the school, and she said, "I'm afraid your son was never going to be able to read. He's never going to be able to write. He's never going to be able to communicate. He's not going to amount to anything. He's not going to go very far in life. But he likes to run since he's been out of these braces. So I'd put him into some sort of sport where he can run." And I guess I've been on the run all my life.
Yeah, there you go.
So then what happened is I ended up, the way I got through school is clowning, and also asking the smartest kids questions. Well, what I'm known today for is the questions that I ask. So I think these are all part of the perfect journey, and we don't see it initially.
Well, you know, it's fascinating. Mind if I interrupt you real quick? I mean, going back to what you said, you didn't like, you like to be with the girls. We're trained in such as to compare, right? And gender has certain roles, but really you are a humanitarian where males tend to be competitive. So you were just more loving, which is why you became a chiropractor, a hands-on healer, right? I mean, you were innately born into that.
I think so. I think what's interesting, at my graduation from chiropractic college, the day of graduation, my grandmother came there. And she said, I'm inspired to see you become a chiropractor. And I said, "Well, thank you." And she said, "It's in your blood." And I said, "No, well, tell me about it." So, well, my father was one of the great first chiropractors that ever came to Oklahoma. And I went, "You're kidding." I said, "I had no idea that there was a chiropractor in our lineage." She says, "Yes. My father was one of the first chiropractors. He was an osteopath doctor, medical doctor, and chiropractor. And he opened up one of the first chiropractic clinics in Oklahoma." Wow. I went, "God almighty, I wish I'd have known that. I didn't know that."
Yeah, fascinating.
So I guess there was something somewhere in the gene pool. But I ended up getting through elementary school with the help of asking the smartest kids questions, because they would read and they would take the class, and I'd ask them. And if they told me what they learned, I could retain that. But I couldn't read, and I couldn't pronounce and speak very well.
So you found a new vehicle.
I found a little vehicle to get through school, and I graduated. I didn't do great, but I made it through elementary school. But then my parents moved to Richmond, Texas, and that was a lower socioeconomic area where we went. And there was no smart kids there, and a lot of rivalry and gangs and drugs and, racial issues. And when I went to school there, it's because I didn't have anybody to ask questions to. I ended up failing, and I dropped out of school. So I left home when I was 13. I tried to go to a different school temporarily, hitchhiking into Houston 30 miles to try to go. But shortly after I did that, it just didn't work. So I left school, and I was a street kid when I was a teenager. I lived in a bowling alley. There's a 24-hour bowling alley. I lived in a park. I lived sometimes in cars, friends' houses sometimes, all-night diners. Then eventually at 14, I ended up hitchhiking to California because I was into surfing, because I was good at surfing at that time. And I hitchhiked to California. And I met Howard Hughes on the way to California, believe it or not, which was an amazing thing to just synchronously run into a guy like that. And then I made it to California, and I hitchhiked down to Mexico that summer. And then at 15, I went to Hawaii, and I wanted to ride big waves because I wasn't going to make it in school. I didn't know how to read. I didn't read till I was 18. Wow. I knew how to stand on a surfboard and had good balance. And it was fast, and so I ended up riding big waves. I surfed 40-foot waves back in those days. Wow. And I got into some surf movies and some surf magazines and stuff. And but then I wasn't taking care of myself. When I first moved to Hawaii, I lived under a bridge on the Kamehameha Highway, Sunset Beach Bridge. Then I moved to Ikai Beach Park, where I lived under a park bench. Then I moved into a bathroom when it rained, then an abandoned car, and finally into a tent, kind of a grass house combination. And I kept social climbing, but I was not taking care of my health nor eating very wisely. And I ended up accumulating strychnine and cyanide poisoning, trying to expand my consciousness through natural means, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I ended up nearly dying at 17. And I was unconscious for 3 days. And luckily, a lady found me and helped me recover. If it wasn't for that lady, I don't know if I'd be here. But she ended up helping me recover and took me to a health food store. And at the health food store, I met this albino Jimi Hendrix looking guy. And he looked at me and I had spasms like Joe Cocker in my hands because of strychnine, cyanide. And he said, man, you need to take a yoga class, man. You need mind over body. And I thought, what a freak. And but I was leaving that health food store one day and I saw a little flyer on the door that said, special guest speaker, Paul C. Bragg, so-and-so's yoga class. Because the word yoga, I could spell, something intuitively said, go to this class. So I went to this class on a Wednesday night, November 18th, I believe, 1972. And there were 35 people sitting on a wooden floor. And this lady yoga introduced Paul Bragg. And you probably heard of Bragg's amino acids, I'm sure.
Yes.
And Bragg began to speak. And this guy was on fire. This guy was amazing. And, you know, he helped Jack LaLanne get his career, Steve Jobs, Donald Trump. I mean, there's about 139 famous people this guy inspired to their mission in life. And this night that he spoke, he got to me. And it was the first night in my life that I ever thought that maybe I could someday become intelligent after hearing him. And I was so inspired by his talk that at the end of his talk, he gave a meditation. And in that meditation, I saw a vision of me standing in front of 1 million people overlooking a balcony, speaking about healing. Wow. And I knew that night that I wanted to be a teacher, healer, and philosopher. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew I wanted to do it. And then I got to study with him for 3 weeks. And he gave me a lot of great information. And from doing that, he also gave me a little affirmation to help me overcome my learning problems. He said, every single day, say to yourself that I'm a genius and I apply my wisdom. And so I started to say that every single day. I've never missed a day in 47 years. And I did what he said. And I started meditating. I started eating differently. I started thinking differently. And that led me to eventually fly back from the Honolulu to LA and a hitchhike back to Texas, take a GED, guessing and passing, take a college entrance exam, guessing and passing. Wow. Taking the first college class and failing and almost giving up and really being distraught and crying in the living room floor because I thought I was going to be able to pass, but I wasn't going to be able to pass. I made a 27 on the test. And I almost gave up. And my mom said to me, when she came home from shopping, she saw me crying. And she said, what happened, son? I said, I blew the test. I guess I'll never be able to read or write or communicate, and that thing never go very far in life. And she said something that changed my life. She said, son, whether you become a great teacher, healer, and philosopher and travel the world like you dream, whether you go back and ride giant waves like you've done, or whether you return to the streets and panhandle as a bum like you've done, I just want to let you know that your father and I are going to love you no matter what you do, boy. When she said that, my hand went into a fist and my eyes closed. I looked up and I saw that vision of me speaking in front of 1 million people as a healer. And I said to myself, I'm going to master this thing called reading. I'm going to master this thing called teaching and healing and studying. And I'm going to do whatever it takes, travel whatever distance, pay whatever price to give my service of love across the planet. I'm not going to let any human being, not even myself, stop me from this now. And I had this point where there was no turning back. I got up, I hugged her, I went into my room, I got a dictionary out, and I started memorizing 30 words a day until my vocabulary was strong enough to be able to pass school. And then I just started excelling. I just did not, I had to learn 18 to 20 hours a day. And I wanted to learn every single thing I could get my hands on. 8 months later, my mom asked me right before my 19th birthday, son, what do you want for your birthday for Christmas? I said, Mom, I want the greatest teachings on the face of the earth by the greatest minds who ever lived, the greatest writings on earth. And she said, "You sure you don't want a T-shirt?" I said, "Mom, I want the greatest writings on the earth. Let me see what I can do." So she called her brother, who was a professor at MIT, Uncle Ralph, I called him. And as a gift, amazing gift, he sent 2 giant 6x6 by 6 foot wooden crates on a flatbed truck to Houston, Texas, with thousands of books inside them. I went out there and they put them on the ground. I opened them up with a crowbar and brought them in my room and filled my room with thousands of books on every imaginable topic. And I sat 18 to 20 hours a day trying to learn to read and master as many disciplines as I could. And I started excelling in school. I went on to the University of Houston and started teaching every day under the trees. Sometimes 100, 150 people, sometimes 400 people would gather every day on whatever was interesting me. I went pre-med there, but I just never felt that there was an excess of organs and a deficiency of drugs. I always believed that the power that made the body heals the body. And I then went off that summer to Peru, serendipitously, by a fluky accident by a Cuban hijacker took me to Peru. I know on a plane I was going to go to somewhere else. And I ended up having a book called The Chiropractic Story in my backpack when I got to Peru. And when I read that, I went, there it is. And after reading that book, The Chiropractic Story by Marcus Bach, I knew that the path of my healing path was going to be chiropractic. So I went to chiropractic college. I did well in chiropractic college. I taught every single night, literally every single night I taught. That's how I went through school and paid for it. And I graduated and opened up a little 970 square foot office. And then I read this book, To the Time Trap by Alec McKinsey. And I realized that I'm going to be in my way if I don't delegate things. And so I started delegating the crap out of things. And 18 months later, I had a 5,000 square foot office with 5 doctors and 12 staff members. And it just boomed. And I was just on fire. And I had my own TV show and I had radio shows going and I was writing books and I was doing PR and I just started doing it. And that's when Parker asked me to speak to the chiropractors. And it just kept growing. And today now I've been blessed to reach over 5 billion people with radio, television, newspapers, magazines, movies. I just filmed a new movie with Stephen Hawking before he died. There's some footage from it. So I have had an absolutely amazing blessing life from the challenges that started my life.
Wow. So, yeah, I mean, I introduced millions and you're in billions. So my apologies for that. And you know, there were so many significant things that you said, not only one-liners, but significant steps. And I don't mean to pick on the small things, and it's like, we can look at certain things like challenges, like you got hijacked. You know, literally my question is, were you on a plane that literally got hijacked and went to a different destination?
Yes.
And so go ahead.
We ended up in the Peru, Lima, Peru, surrounded by machine gun army jeeps. And I was not important to the hijackers. There were some dignitaries up in the front, first class. I was definitely not in first class at the time. And they finally opened up the back door and let us come down some stairs to get all the riffraff off. And they just wanted the people that had means. And so we end up walking all the way from the thing, getting our bags and walking all the way to the terminal. And I'm watching this whole thing go down. It's like, you know, and I got a Hawaiian shirt on and it's winter down there. And I'm thinking, okay. And this guy comes up to me from Aero, Peru. And he said, so are you going surfing? Because I had a surfboard. He says, yeah. He said, where's your wetsuit? I go, I don't have one. Well, you're going to need a wetsuit here, man. It's 50-degree water. I said, well, I don't have one. He says, where are you planning on surfing and staying? And I said, I have no idea. I didn't know I was coming there.
Yeah.
And he said, well, do you need a place to stay? And I said, well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I get off here at 5:00. If you want to hang around here, you know, I'm a surfer and there's a bunch of surfers and I can set you up and help you out. I said, that would be amazing. So I waited till 5:00. He took me back to where he was living and he was the governor's son. How about that?
Oh my God.
So I ended up at the governor's friggin' palace with a Hawaiian shirt on and a surfboard and a headband and meet the governor and have dinner with the governor that night. And he told me that if I'm in Peru, I must go to Machu Picchu. I never heard of Machu Picchu. And I went surfing in the Miraflores. I went down to Chicama and hitchhiked down there and surfed Chicama by myself. And then I ended up coming back to Lima. And then I went off on a journey and did what he said. I went to Machu Picchu, left my surfboard there in Miraflores and went to Machu Picchu. And wow, it was there that I read the book, The Chiropractic Story.
Got it.
So
well, things happen in our life. Like how many people would say, shoot, I'm being hijacked and all the stress and what's going to happen. And you look at the order, the divine order of every event. I mean, you end up at the governor's house,
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I always say that anything you can't say thank you for is because you haven't looked deep enough to discover the beauty and the elegant hidden order that's there. There is a divine order.
Oh, yeah.
Leibniz, in his book, The Discourse of Metaphysics, that I read when I was 18, that my uncle gave me, he said in the very first chapter that human beings can't improve upon what is, and that there is a divine perfection, a divine beauty, divine love, a divine order that few people ever get to know, but those that do, their lives are changed forever. When I read that, I got tears in my eyes, and I knew that I was going to find a science to help people get that and help people recognize that, because there really is. And when they get that, their life is changed. So, yeah, I really believe that the challenges that we think are there are just, we're conscious of only the challenge side, and we're not conscious of the blessings that it's revealing sometimes. But it's just a matter of the speed in which we see both sides of things. If it takes us our whole life and we miss out on the magnificence, well, we weren't too bright. But if we take the time to have the wisdom of the ages without the aging process and look deeply at the magnificence of what's going on moment by moment, there's amazing momentum building insights that are revealed.
Well, and you just said an amazingly brilliant statement, and that is to have the wisdom of the ages without the aging process,
Exactly.
Because of that consciousness, those flow out of your mouth so easily. Yet I wanted to repeat that. So people really got that, including, we all need to remind ourselves of that as well. Now, I'm just curious, and this may be a small thing, but I think it'll end up being a big thing in your consciousness. As you were going through all these events, you were already aware that there was a divine perfection. Did you just stay present the whole time? And did you have any anxiety through those processes? Or were you already at that point where you were just present and accepting things as they came with a vision in mind?
Well, I think that would be a delusion on my part to portray that I'm always present and I'm always aware. And I mean, that's a bit delusional. I'm just a human being, on my journey. But when I was 14, I watched something really cool kind of happened. I was hitchhiking from Houston, Texas to LA. The very first night, I happened to have a little telephone number of a chick I met on the beach in Freeport, Texas, who lived in Austin. So the first night I met with this chick from Austin, and we went to the Ted Nugent concert at the Armadillo Club.
Nice.
So here we were watching rock and roll. My first night out hitchhiking, rock and roll to the hilt. We ended up going backstage and hanging out with Ted Nugent. And this is a super hot chick looking. I mean, she was like, the Victoria's Secret models on steroids. And so I was like, I'm sitting here, Ted Nugent, rock and roll, beautiful girl, first night out hitchhiking. This is a pretty good deal. A street kid,
Yeah.
The second night I ended up, though, in a Piggly Wiggly truck hitchhiking, and I fell asleep and I missed my turn, and I ended up in San Angelo, Texas, stuck out of the normal pathway to California. But there I met a guy who was smoking hash, had 13 cats in his little house in the middle of this city, who saw me walking in the middle of West Texas with a surfboard and was roaring laughing and said, "Man, you got to come in here. I got to know who you are, man."
Yeah.
The next night, I'm sleeping with a drug lord gang in Midland, Texas. So this is a rough thing, and they were pretty rough people, but they demanded that I hang out with them, and I was a little leery about not doing that. And that was a wild night. I left at 4 a.m. without them being awake and got out of there. The next night, I'm in El Paso. The next day, I'm in El Paso, Texas. It's about a day later, El Paso, Texas. That's where I met Howard Hughes. And he found me on the street and took me to a library and told me to learn how to read.
Wow.
He told me two things. He says, never judge a book by its cover. It'll fool you. And number two, you learn how to read and you gain the wisdom of love and the love of wisdom, because those are the only two things they can never take away from you.
Wow.
That's an amazing story because he happened to be there doing an El Paso natural gas deal with El Paso for a brewery he was building in Austin. So then he told,
see you on the side of the road or what?
Well, I was being attacked by 3 cowboys, and he saw me and how I handled them. And I acted like a wild animal and scared him and did a pattern interrupt and got him off me. And he saw that and he just thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. but when I got to left El Paso, I hitchhiked out to California. The next day, no, not the next day, it was almost a day and a little over, I was with Timothy Leary, of all places. Because I got a hitchhike guy with a Volvo who picked up a gem collector out in the middle of Blythe, Arizona, and he wanted to go to Idlewild, and he went to Timothy's house. And so the next day I'm at Timothy's ranch, and I'm going in. I said, I got to go pee, man. I go inside, and I'm smoking a joint with Timothy Leary, nice. Of all people. I mean, this is the journey of living on the streets is pretty interesting. So the next night I'm finally in, or that late that night I'm finally in LA, and then I end up getting to finally Huntington Beach, California, and wow, I'm in Huntington Beach, California. It's 5:00 in the afternoon. I'm watching the sun go down. I'm about to go out for the last hour of surf because the class is off, and this strawberry, beautiful blonde chick walks up to me, and she says, "Are you a runaway?" I said, "Well, not exactly. I got a ride to the freeway to hitchhike here." And he says, "Well, where are you staying?" And I said, "I'm staying on the beach." He said, "Well, you can't sleep on the beach here past 10. They have a curfew. You have to go down to the cliffs to stay." And I said, "Well, I guess I'll stay down there." And she says, "Do you need a place to stay?" And I'm looking up at this 10 on the Richter scale chick. Do I need a place to stay? And I'm like going, yeah. And she goes, "Well, you can stay with me." I go, okay. Yeah. So I go to this chick's house, which is a few blocks away, and she fixed me some spaghetti, and she offers to wash my clothes that are dirty. And she says, "You can stay up in this attic and this waterbed upstairs." And she takes care of things. I mean, she's like a mother. But then at 9:30, when I was about to crash, because I want to get up and surf, she comes up and makes love with me in this waterbed. And now that would be illegal today, but in those days it was just part of the daily, ritual. And but what I found out is that she had a son. She was married. She had a son that was 4 years old that was taken away from her, and she was trying to make bathing suits to earn enough money to get his son back. So she was needing somebody like a son. But what was interesting, if you took her husband's age and her son's age and put them together and divide by 2, that was my age. And if you took my mother's age and my average girlfriend's age and put them together and divide by 2, it's her age. So she was playing a girlfriend and a mother, and I was playing a son and a husband. And that's why we're having that dynamic. And that stuck in my mind. And I realized, wait a minute, nothing's missing here. Things are transforming. And that's when I realized that the master lives in a world of transformation, never the illusions of gain and loss. Don't get attached to form. Just to be resilient and adaptable and watch the forms change. And from that moment on, when I hitchhiked down to Mexico, I watched all the people in my life mute and transform and realized nothing was ever missing. And that allowed me to have an appreciation for the universe right then.
Wow.
And I didn't have a universal understanding. I was illiterate, but I was an observer. And I saw things, and I think that gave me trust in the universe. And I hitchhiked. I mean, I've had all kind of things. I've almost been stabbed. I've been shot at. I've had all kind of adventures along the way. But there was always also a knowing that no matter what happens, it's all part of a bigger picture. And that was a blessing. I think that helped me appreciate innate intelligence and universal intelligence when I got to be a chiropractor.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure you have probably hundreds of fascinating stories, and all of those have been absolutely fascinating. And I think the biggest principle really is your appreciation for universal guidance. And
that's it.
How we can certainly reframe every event in our life, give it a more empowering meaning. So I appreciate that.
That's it. You got it.
So, okay. Well, so as we move on, then you're a practicing chiropractor, highly successful. And then your next purpose, I guess you could say, or the next meaning in your life took hold, and you started teaching people how to become more self-empowered, I believe a spiritual basis. And
well, what happens, I started, my first student that ever came to me, I was 18. And it was a 375-pound Afro-American woman that wanted me to teach her yoga.
Nice.
the anti-particle of what I looked like at the time. I was skinny and I was fasting and I was a yogi, studying Gandhi's work, And then I had a guy from Persia, Tehran, who asked me to teach him meditation. Then I had another German guy teach mathematics to him as I was learning. And then I got about 16 students. So I was starting to accumulate teaching at that time. By the time I went to the University of Houston, I used to have 100 to 150 people under the trees. And I was teaching, doing Q&A every day. And sometimes I'd swell to 400 people.
Wow.
When I went on to professional school, chiropractic college, I taught every single night. I get up at 2 a.m, do yoga till 2:30, speed read from 2:30 to 6:30, jog till 7, clean up, go to school, 7:45, go to class, go to clinic, come home, teach at 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock every night, go to bed at 10 and back up at 2. And I taught every single day to pay for chiropractic college and to make sure I learned, because whatever I taught, it would help me accelerate my learning. And I would give reviews for boards and reviews for classes. Whatever I could teach that could generate income, I did it. And for me to learn, I wanted to learn. And so I was teaching all the way through. I knew I was going to teach. And when I first graduated and went out to do my practice, I told my first assistant that I'm going to be practicing intensely for 5 years and I'll be traveling the world teaching. And so it was all master planned. I was very clear about what I was going to do. But I wanted to be a healer and I wanted to understand physiology. But I realized when I read The Time Trap that if I sat in my little cubicle, that I was going to limit the number of people I could touch in the world. Because I was seeing an average of 100 new patients a month. And even that, it's only 50,000 people over a period of 40 years. So I thought, this isn't going to cut it because I need to be able to reach millions of people and billions of people. That was my dream. So I realized that I had to leverage myself through other doctors and then leverage myself through other groups of doctors and then leverage myself, because then I realized there's only 100,000 chiropractors. So that's still finite. So I had to realize in order to reach my dream, I had to go to other industries. And now I'm blessed to reach all kinds of people. I mean, today I did CNN out of Istanbul, a show there. And then they came to film also for the movie. And we got a webinar tonight globally. And so I'm constantly on the go around the world doing things. Now we have students in every country on earth.
Wow, that's amazing. And what an amazing evolution. And I'm sure as your consciousness expands, your reach around the world is continuing to expand, obviously.
Exactly. Well, I've said for many years that if you want to make a difference in yourself, you need a vision at least as big as your family. If you want to make a difference in your family and be remembered in your family, you need a vision at least as big as your community. If you want to be number one in the community, you need a vision as big as your city. If you want to be number one in the city, you need a vision as big as your state or province or prefecture. If you want to be number one in the state, you need a vision as big as your nation. If you want to be number one in the nation, you need a global vision. And if you want to have a massive global difference, you need an astronomical vision. Your soul calls you to an astronomical vision. Your senses limit you to the ground. And so you can't let the illusions of the senses interfere with the calling of the soul if you want to do something internationally or astronomically.
Well, and that is true divinity moving through, right? Universal intelligence, whole premise chiropractic, right? Universal intelligence and innate intelligence, that we're connected universally. And so
the boundary of my body is where innate might be, but the essence of my soul is where universal is.
Exactly. Nice. Thank you for articulating that so beautifully. So what do you see? I mean, you have programs now that are all over the world. Obviously, you just shared with some of us. What do you see for the future, and how can people get in touch with you, attend your events, find out more about you?
Well, I've been to 153 countries, and I want to step foot on every country, so I still have countries to go. I'm going to be getting to Cambodia soon, and I'm doing Sri Lanka in December, so I'll have those in December. So there'll be 2 more. I made a commitment, and I keep metrics on all my goals. And because if I really believe I'm going to commit to these things, I need to be able to monitor them and get feedback and refine things as I go. So I haven't reached every country on the face of the earth yet. So I'm still working on that. believe that there's millions and millions more people we'll reach. And then there's new opportunities every single day for reaching more people. I had a guy today that contacted me from Australia and said, I hear you're coming there. Can I just promote you? And I said, wow, thank you. So he put 2 podcasts together for Australia. He's got 40,000 people that he just wants to let people know about it. It's not a big thing, but it's people around the world help in the project. And then I worked with a movie actor today, this morning for breakfast, who's got a new movie out, and he's incorporating some of my work in the movie, that's the way he gets my work out there. So I'm really blessed by the people I meet on a daily basis. And so I'm just going to continue to, as long as this body will keep going, I'm going to continue to do what I love doing. And that's the thing that inspires me most. I've delegated everything else away. I research, I write, I travel, I teach. I do nothing else. I haven't cooked in 40 years. I haven't driven a car in 30 years. I delegate everything. I got teams around me around the world. They take care of things. I do what I do best. That's why I spend the day doing podcasts, interviews, meetings, consulting, whatever it is. But I'm a teacher, so I just allow myself to do that. And I, believe it or not, I still adjust people as I travel. And I don't have a license in all these places, but nobody seems to care. They don't really care about it. I'm sure I'm in trouble somewhere.
Nice. Well, how can people get a hold of you, find out what you do about your events and attend your events or online programs or whatever you have? What's the best way to reach you?
Well, the easiest way is just go to drdemartini.com. And on there, it's an educational website. There's thousands of interviews. I write for 1,400 magazines around the world. So I've got tons and tons of articles, podcasts, YouTube things, interviews, radio, television. There's all kind of, whatever allows me to get a message out there, it's on my website. And seminars, live seminars that I do most every day, because I do 300 to 400 presentations here easily. And so it's on the website, so they can reach me that way. And there's, I'm doing a webinar tonight actually on wealth building that'll be global. And right when I'm going to have a 15-minute window to eat, and then I'm off to the webinar, start the webinar after that. So I get to do that tonight, and I'll reach a lot of people that way. So I'm constantly doing that. The website's the place, drdemartini.com. Just drdemartini.com.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us for our listeners. And obviously sharing your consciousness is truly transformational. I mean, the one-liners and your experience through life and how you've evolved is truly an inspiration, and is also a testament that we are being divinely guided in every step, that we don't need to know how. And really what you said from the beginning, just be thankful for everything. And that's what opens new great doors that evolve us. So
that's it. My mother said to me when I was 4 years old, putting me to bed, she says, make sure you count your blessings, because those that are grateful for what they have, they get more to be grateful for. And I delegated a book, created a book called Count Your Blessings to my mom before she died because of that.
Nice. Well, is there any final words that you'd like to leave people with?
Yeah. You got to give yourself permission to do something extraordinary on planet Earth, because the true you is extraordinary. And the magnificence of who you are is far greater than any fantasies you may impose on yourself. So don't sidetrack yourself with delusions of fantasies. Just get grounded and look at what your hierarchy of values dictate daily. What you do spontaneously that you're called to do, that you're inspired to do. When that voice and vision on the inside guides you and is louder than all opinions on the outside, and you say no to all the opportunists that are trying to distract you, and just say yes to the thing that inspires you from within, a soul-guided vision, mission, and purpose reveals itself and allows you to do something extraordinary on planet Earth.
Well, thank you. It's truly been an honor chatting with you. I hope to support you and see you at some of your events. And just really, again, I'm very gracious. Thank you for spending your time with us, sharing your thoughts, consciousness, life story. And everybody go to the website, check them out, attend an event. It's truly, I've heard many testimonials of people that have been to your event, truly transformational. And thank you once again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the things you're doing for the profession and just for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Peace.
You're listening to the You Are More Powerful podcast, brought to you by YouAreMorePowerful.com and the book, You Are More Powerful Than You Think by Dr. Fred DiDomenico. Join us again next time for more discoveries right here on the You Are More Powerful podcast.